All right. Hello, everyone. How we all doing? My name is Kim Levinsky. I'm the owner and race director for Sassquad Trail Runners. We put on trail parties out in northern New Jersey and the Hudson Highlands of New York. Today is Wednesday, November 5th, 2025. And this evening we are doing a Ask Us Anything webinar. So we got a whole bunch of pre-submitted questions from you all through our website. So I've got them loaded up here in the queue. We're going to work through them one by one. And if you're watching live, feel free to drop a comment. I'll be able to see them and I can pop them up on the screen. So we're just going to work through them. I tried to group them kind of like Sassquad questions, trail running questions, and then there were a few questions about me personally in regards to the New York Long Path FKT. So we'll hit those up at the end. But let's start with Sassquad specific questions. And this is a fun one. We get asked this question a lot here at Sassquad, which is how did Sassquad get started and what is the story behind the name? So I love telling the story, we'll call it. And basically, what had happened was in 2016, I had moved back to New Jersey after spending a number of years out in Ohio. I was a college softball coach and I made a career change. I came back to Jersey in around the area where I grew up. I grew up in New Jersey. And I started getting plugged in with the local trail running community. And specifically, I connected with the group called the Union County Moms Run This Town. And they primarily did a lot of trail running out of the Watchung Reservation, which is in Union County. And just so happened to literally run into a bunch of those women on a Saturday afternoon. And they said, "You are officially in the crew now." And I explained, like, "Hey, I'm not a mom." And they said, "That doesn't matter. Anyone can join the Moms Run This Town group." So this group is a national organization with a bunch of chapters all around the country. It's also, other groups are called She Runs This Town. So it kind of goes back and forth between the two names. So anyway, I met a whole bunch of super rad trail runners through that experience and started meeting more throughout the community. And this led to conversations where I was sharing that I'd really love to put on a trail running event at some point in New Jersey. Because at the time, this was like 8 years ago, there weren't a ton of events. Now there are, which is awesome. I love it. But back then, there were a handful. And so I just shared that with friends, shared the dream, shared the idea. And the response I got was, "Well, why don't you put on an event?" And I said, "That's a great question. Let's do it." So with the help of a lot of friends and the local trail running community, we put on a fat ass event, which is called the Frosty Fat Sass, in January of 2018. I was expecting, a few friends to come out. We'd have fun, share some miles. And it turned out we had over 100 people sign up for that event. And at the end of that, people were asking, when is the next race? When's the next time you guys are going to put on an event? And so that it kind of I always say it snowballed after that. I was working an administrative job at the time at an inpatient rehab center in West Orange, and I was doing that full time when Sassquad was getting off the ground. And after about 2 years, I was able to leave that job and switch to doing Sassquad full time. And it slowly evolved into the really cool, rad community that we have today, where now there's, I think our count is like around 2,000 runners a year that come to events. We have about one race every month. There's tons of really cool programs that are running throughout the year to support the trail community. And it's just really, really special. So that's kind of the overview of how Sassquad got started. And then the story behind the name, this is also very fun to share. My sister, her name is Debbie. She claims that she invented the word Sassquad. And I maintain to this day that it was me who thought of the word, but we'll never truly know the real story of that. But yeah, basically Sassquad, it combines the two words Sasquatch and squad. So Sasquatch became the mascot because it's this universal symbol that everybody knows. easy to recognize. People are aware of the lore of Sassquad, easily recognizable. And then Squad, because that, kind of encompassed everything we wanted to do with building community and having people at the center. From day one, it was very clear in my mind, I didn't want it to be the Kim Levinsky brand with Sassquad Trail Running. I wanted it to be about community and all the people who are coming to the event. So that was the reasoning behind the name, and that's how we got Sassquad. So, okay, let's move on to the next question. Somebody wants to know, what is your favorite Sassquad event of all time and why? Oh my goodness, what a question. Man, I don't think you can pick, right? Can you really pick one race that's your favorite? Because at this point, I think the number is around 70 or 75 events that I've had the opportunity to race direct over the years. So there's way too many to choose from. But if we're narrowing it down to one race, the Wild Goose Trail Festival has evolved into something that's so special. There's just so many people that come out. We've got distances for everybody. It's really becoming a true festival feel. It's a ton of work and prep that leads up to the Wild Goose. So that event has really now become, to me, like it's the race that I'm training for throughout the year. That's how I've been treating it the last couple of years, just because it's something you cannot just get ready for a few weeks before. There's a lot of prep that goes into it. So it's just so special to see so many people come out and get to know each other, start new friendships. So many distance PRs happen at the Wild Goose. So I think if I had to pick a favorite, it would probably be that. But there's definitely like so many aspects of every race that are really special. So it's hard to choose. I'll say that. Here's the next question. How did the Squatchy Onesie Fest 5K idea come about? This is also one of my favorite stories of all time to share because it's so ridiculous and it's so true to Sassquad. Like the spirit of Sassquad is very well represented in the story. So it was during the midnight Squatchapalooza, that event we no longer have. We passed it on to Beast Coast Productions. My friend Vanessa Klein and John Swanson do a fantastic job with that organization. They put on races, and they are located like right next to the Burlington County Fairgrounds where that event was. So we put it on for a couple of years and then passed it off to Vanessa, and they do a really great job with it. But one of those years, it was in the middle of the night because that race starts at midnight and it ends at, it's a 12-hour race, so 12 to 12. And we were sitting around, all the volunteer dream team, just making up crazy ideas for races. And I don't remember who, but somebody said, what if we had a race where everybody wears a onesie? And that just like really spiraled out. And ultimately, we all decided like, well, why not? Again, that's like the answer to a lot of questions for ideas that are pitched at Sassquad is like, well, why not? Why not just do it? So that is how the onesie race came about. Was somebody said, what would happen if we had everybody wear a onesie and run? And it'd have to be in the middle of winter because onesies are quite warm when you're running. So that is the origin story of the Onesie Fest. It is so much fun. If you haven't come, check it out this year. It's February 14th. Over in Mahwah, New Jersey at the Ramapo Valley County Reservation. And we host that at the Trail Conference headquarters. It's a fundraising event for them. So you can check that out on our website. All right, next question. If a first timer only had to run one Sassquad event, which would you recommend? Oh, this is another hard question. This is like asking what's your favorite event. Great question. All right. If I had to choose, let me say a few of the races that probably would not be a great choice for your first ever. Let's assume the person who's asking is also a brand new trail runner. They're just starting trail running and they want to know what's the first event they should do. I would not recommend the events that we have up in New York. So Big Bear Squatch North, Big Bear Squatch South, and the Squatchy Mountain Fest. Those are very, very rugged mountain terrain, a lot of climbing, a lot of rocks, very technical trails, which means there's a lot of roots and rocks, and it's difficult terrain. So, and this is just based on observing what's happened the last, number of years that we put on events. When newbies come out, inevitably they cross the finish line and say, like, that was awesome, but it was not a good choice to make that my first race. So I would say a better option would be an event like the Squatchy Leftovers. I think is a fantastic event to make your first race, because we have distances we have a 5K, a 10K, 25K, and a 50K. We also have a kids 1 miler. So really there's a distance for everybody. And what makes that a great first race for newbies is that it's a looped course, which means we use a 5K loop. It's about 3 miles. And that's just repeated whatever amount of times you need to get the distance that you signed up for. So if you're doing the 5K, you just do 1 loop. If you're doing the 10K, you do 2, so on and so forth. So it's a great event because you don't have to carry a lot of stuff with you. You can have a little setup at the start finish. We also have a full aid station that's like our aid stations usually are, that are out of control, over the top. So you're going to be really well supported. And we have a lot of newbies that come out to that event. So it's very family friendly. It's fun too because it's Thanksgiving weekend. It's a Saturday Thanksgiving. So a lot of folks, extended families, are traveling in, and they're coming and experiencing Sassquad for the first time. So if I had to choose one, I think I would go with the Squatchy Leftovers in Thanksgiving weekend. So this year it's November 29th. I will mention we just dipped below the 100 spots left mark. So we have less than 100 spots left with how many weeks ago? 1, 2, 3, about 3 weeks ago. So we are on track to sell out. We're capped at about 400 people. So if you want to join us, sign up soon. We've got one more price increase coming on the 9th, which is this coming Sunday. So if you want to get in, highly recommend getting on that so you can avoid being added to the dreaded wait list. Okay, next question we've got. How do you design courses that are fun, challenging, and safe at the same time? Great question. So the way I would answer that is I get input from folks who have a lot of knowledge, right? So it's never like one person is thinking of this and not getting any other input from anybody else. So to walk you through the process, usually how it starts out is, the location needs to be somewhere beautiful, somewhere that's accessible, and most important logistic is it has to have parking. That's a big thing. Parking is a big thing that rules out a lot of locations because it's really tough to do shuttles in terms of, number one, the logistics, and then the cost. It's like $1,000 a bus, which is tough. And runners, like, we don't really want to get on a school bus. Like, that's not really super fun. So location a lot of times is determined by parking, how accessible it is, where it is. And then from there, it's a lot of poring over maps. You can see behind me, I've got like all the New York, New Jersey Trail Conference maps. So using that as like the baseline of looking at the topo with the terrain and seeing like what they've marked out as really scenic parts of the trail. From there, going into a mapping software like Gaia or CalTopo to create the route. And then it's going and actually running it. It's a very important detail of designing a course. So getting out on the trail, usually I'll go by myself the first couple times, and then I'll ask some friends to come with me and ask them, like, put on the lens of like you're a racer in the event, and then give me feedback afterwards. And also an important part of doing that is having them record it on their watch so we can get like an average time, an average distance, because many GPS watches, they're never going to say exactly the same thing. So you can get a mileage number from the maps. You can get a mileage number from mapping software like Gaia and CalTopo, and then you've got the actual numbers that your watches are coming back with. So, collecting data in that way. And then the next step would be asking some more folks to go out on their own with the GPX file that we've created, and then giving us feedback that way. So that is kind of like the basic of how we design the course. From there, we go to the park because there's a whole permitting process, right? So you can't just do any route that you want. A lot of times the park is going to have input on what trails you can use, you can't use. They have the environmental insights that maybe we don't have access to publicly. So they're going to bring that knowledge to the table. Like there's some trails that maybe we didn't realize they're protected because of a certain eagle species lives there. That's happened to us before, and we've had to reroute the course. So again, there's a lot of variables that come in terms of like balancing the fun and the challenging. That is a very fun aspect of designing courses, at least in my opinion. So, we try to here at Sassquad have a really big variety of courses that we offer, ranging from like really great newbie, beginner friendly, family friendly, kid friendly trails, all the way up to like very rugged, technical, mountain, steep, scrambly stuff up in more so in New York. And then everything in between. So I think what we're doing, I'll point out as well, is like looking at the whole race calendar and seeing like where is there a need both with terrain and distance. Like, are we missing out on a certain group of people that maybe it's the sub ultra distance that we need to have another event that has like a 5K option rather than adding another ultra, So it's trying to take like a holistic look at everything to see what do people want, getting feedback from other folks, and then working with the park. And then safety. I mean, safety is huge. That is, I always say as a race director, that's our number one priority is the safety of your participants, not just physically, that's also the culture that you're creating in a welcoming space that people feel safe when they come. But in terms of like the safety aspect of designing a course is also huge. So we're looking at things at like, where are the road access points? If there was an emergency, how long would it take for emergency personnel, whether that's us responding or it's search and rescue or park police or rangers? How long would it take? How many miles? What's the terrain that they're going to? And then, I mean, there's a whole process in permitting where you have to create an EAP, which is an emergency action plan, which then outlines all of those things. So a lot of behind the scenes stuff that, I've certainly learned a lot about over the years. And I personally really love this part of race planning, which is designing the course, going out and checking it out, getting feedback from people who are there, checking out the course as well. So that is the answer to that question. We had a little comment come in here saying it's a good aid station at the leftovers. Yes, I agree. It is extra. Like most of our aid stations that we have, it's really over the top. So lots of good food to choose from at the Squatchy leftovers. All right, next question that just came in, or this was pre-submitted. So this question is, any memorable wildlife encounters during races? Of course, yes. The answer is yes. The one that definitely comes to mind first happened at Wild Goose 2 years ago, and we call it the drop bear encounter. So we had not one, but two runners who were participating in the Wild Goose. I think it was one of the longer distances because it happened early in the evening hours, where they saw a bear drop out of a tree and land very close to them and then run off. And when they came back to the Squatch HQ and were telling all of us about it, at first I was like, I don't really like a bear falling out of a tree. Maybe you're hallucinating, but it was way too early in the race for hallucinations to be happening. So, and then there was a second runner that came and verified the story and said, I just saw a bear fly out of a tree. So that was a new one. And it's a story that I think is fun to tell because very unexpected and certainly very memorable for wildlife encounters. Okay, next question. Somebody wants to know, if you could design a dream Sassquad race anywhere in the world, where would it be? Oh my goodness. I'll just say the first thing that comes to my mind is probably, I would say it's my favorite place in the country to visit is the the PNW, Pacific Northwest, specifically through the Redwoods. Realistically, that would never happen because of permitting and all that, but this is a hypothetical question. If you could design any race, I would love to help folks experience the Redwoods. I went out there for the first time a couple of years ago, and it is pure magic. The whole PNW is just absolutely incredible. I was recently out in Washington State and got to explore Olympic National Park, and it's spectacular up there. So if I had to choose one spot in the world, it would probably be the PNW up there. All right, next question. This was a good question. Where do you hope the Sassquad community will be in 5 years? Ooh, this is a great question. This is a question I talk about with my race directing mentor, involved in a program with the U.S. Trail Running Conference. It's really cool. It's a mentorship program. So this is a question that we talk about often in the past of, looking ahead to the future. It's very easy, especially in this industry, to get very caught up in like, what's the next race a couple months out within the calendar year rather than looking ahead 5-10 years. So, I think I would answer that by saying that I want to see the community continue to grow, and not necessarily in numbers. I think that probably organically, naturally happens with growth in community, but the growth that we're seeing and that we have seen over the 8 years in terms of community, where people are connecting with each other through the race organization Sassquad, has been hands down the most special part about the whole thing, is seeing the community grow, seeing people start friendships with each other. I mean, now there's folks who've been involved long enough with Sassquad where we've seen partnerships develop, marriage, new baby squatches coming, it's just been really special to see that. Another aspect you see as a race director is a newbie starting out with your organization, and then, over the years, they're perhaps, like, we can measure in distance, they're going longer and further. And so to watch that, I think people's personal journeys is really special. So I think over the next 5 years, I want to see more of what's starting to happen now, where I can say now that there's a lot of really cool, we'll call it trail magic, that's happening with new programs that we're launching, because I am taking a step back, and there's more people within the community that are coming forward with these ideas and saying, like, I want to take ownership of this. I want to be on leadership and make this program come to life. And so with programs like the Hippogriffin, Team Hippogriffin launched this last year, the partnership with the Hackensack Middle School Happy Feet Trail Running Club, those things were all organic, that happened within the Sassquad community, where community members stepped up and said, like, hey, I have this idea. Do you think we can do this? And I've really taken the support role where, I'm doing the behind the scenes stuff, a lot of like the admin, like websites and registration pages, stuff like that, the permitting process. And that opens it up for other people to take the lead. I think I would love to see more of that. It's really, really cool to see people use, like, turning their passions and their skills into a vehicle of change. And that's just like making such a really big impact on other people in the tri-state area. Like the Hippogriffin program, getting adaptive athletes involved is so incredible. And it's something that never would have happened if other community members didn't step up and say, like, hey, we have this idea, let's do it. So I think that's how I would answer that question. And hopefully that answers it pretty thoroughly. Okay, we're going to now transition to more questions that are a little more like trail specific. So I grouped these. Actually, hold on, I'm going to switch this. There was one more Sassquad question, which is, which Sassquad race has the most scenic views? I would say probably hands down, this is subjective. In my opinion, it would definitely be the Squatchy Mountain Fest. And that happens the last weekend in April. It was our first year event for us last year. and that is it starts in Ellenville, New York, and it goes up to Minnewaska State Preserve and Sam's Point. And this was a race that was on the Sassquad Dream Board for a number of years, and it was inspired by the New York Long Path FKT that I did a few years ago, because this section of the long path through Minnewaska was hands down my favorite part of the 360 miles. It's just it's otherworldly, and that's how I describe it. And it was really cool to see runners and hikers, when they finished, they were using that verbiage of like, it was unreal. It was like another world. It was like another planet up there in the gunks. So I would say definitely the Squatchy Waska Mountain Fest has the most scenic views out of all of our series. But Big Bear, Squatch North and South also have really great views. And there's sections of all the courses that have cool views, but those probably the three New York races stand out, with Squatchy Waska at the top. And that's opening up, race registration for that is opening up January 1st. So mark that down in your calendar, because that event will definitely sell out. Okay, so let's move on to more of these like trail specific questions. We got 3 or 4 of them. So this is, what is the weirdest thing a runner has brought on a trail? When I was thinking about this earlier today in prepping for the webinar, I wanted to share a great story. This is actually not at a Sassquad race, but this was at an event I was volunteering at. Vanessa Klein and John Swanson, who I mentioned earlier, with Beast Coast Productions, they produced an event called the Batona Trail Race, which is down in the Pine Barrens of New Jersey. And Sassquad would go each year and sponsor one of their aid stations. We would run it and volunteer and all that. So one of the years that I was working that aid station, I'll never forget it. This was an aid station where runners could have drop bags. A drop bag is stuff that you put in before the race so you can access it in the middle of the race. It's there waiting for you. So one of the runners, when they got their drop bag, they opened it up, sat down, and they pulled out 3 cans of Vienna sausages, like, those little sausage wieners that are in water canned up. He pulled out those. He had a fork in his bag as well, and just started chowing down on the Vienna sausages. And not only did he eat all of them, he slurped the liquid in the can after each one was finished. So I have to say that's probably the weirdest thing I've seen. It appeared to work well for him. I'm assuming he was training with the Vienna sausages leading up to that race. It was a 55-mile race, but that is definitely the one that sticks out to me, is Vienna sausages in a drop bag. Next question we've got, what is your number one tip for somebody who is new to trail running? This is a great question too. One that I get asked often, because we do a lot of webinars like this one, but we also do intro to trail running clinics throughout the year, usually over at in Millburn, New Jersey with Sneaker Factory. So this is something that we talk about, is just giving out advice to folks who might be new and are trying the sport. So I would say one thing that I often tell folks is that, especially if they're coming from like a road running background, that it's going to be very different than road running. And this is going to be stereotyping a little bit, but road runners tend to get like fixated on their watch and their times and their pace and their split. And so that's something I usually say, like right off the bat, like, hey, if you're a road runner, you need to throw those metrics out the window, because trail running most often is going to generally be slower in pace. Just because the terrain is so much different. You're not running on flat, often flat, it could be hilly road, but flat, even terrain where your strides are pretty much the same over and over and over again. The trails is going to be a lot different. So your pace is going to be usually slower than you would be on the road. And then the other tip I like to give out to runners is to resist the urge, or maybe if there's pressure, but to go out and buy all like new trail running gear and just drop hundreds and hundreds of dollars on stuff when you're just starting out. So like go out and try the trails. You don't need trail running shoes when you're starting out. Like, yeah, they're going to be a good investment if you decide that you really enjoy trail running, but don't let gear and equipment be something that you feel like, oh, and I got to spend like $200 on a pair of trail shoes in order to enjoy the trails, or buy a brand new trail pack that's $100. Go out there and try the trails and make sure you actually enjoy it first. And if you don't, that's okay. Like, not everybody has to do trail running, or a lot of times, or not a lot of times, but I've seen folks who've tried trail running. They're like, not for me. I prefer really slowing it down and doing hiking. That is cool. And actually, a lot of trail running is hiking anyway. So remember that. That's probably the other tip. I know this is like the number one tip. I'm now on number 3. But I would say that number 3 is that trail running involves hiking. You do not have to run every step when you go out on a trail run. Again, that a lot of that tends to come from the road mindset of like needing to run. Hiking is so totally cool in trail running. And you know what? Instead of calling it walking, you call it power hiking. So power hiking is great. Okay, next question we've got, how do you handle trail running in bad weather? Well, a lot of people would say that Sassquad is very, very well known for spicy weather. I like to use the word spicy. We have been known to have many events where the weather forecast might look great in terms of like no precipitation, and then the race starts and it just starts to happen, whether that's snow, sleet, hail, monsoons. We've really seen everything at Sassquad races. So that's something I would say if you are joining us and the weather looks like it's going to get a little spicy, my best advice is to first and foremost, like, accept it and embrace it. When you go into an event, if you're dreading the weather, like, you're most likely not going to have a great experience. So we always tell folks, like, if we see a weather forecast that isn't, sunny and blue skies, we like to reassure people that, like, Sassquad community and the volunteer dream team, we have a lot of experience with poor weather, so we're going to be ready to support you. So you can be assured that the aid stations are going to be there, especially with like the moral support if you're starting to feel down with the weather. But in terms of like handling it, I think something I've seen over the years is that, and I can speak specifically to like the Wild Goose Trail Festival, is because we had the first year we had the Wild Goose Trail Festival with the 100 miler, it so happened to be the same weekend as Tropical Storm Ophelia, which meant it was monsooning the entire time from start to finish. So people had to really contend with a lot of tough weather. And, just from being there the whole time, I observed like the folks who came with a lot of different layers and options for swapping out clothing and socks to you wouldn't stay dry for long, but it would help mitigate some of the issues that come up, specifically foot care. So I think that's a big thing in terms of handling bad weather is trying to be prepared for it in terms of like coming with extra layers. If you don't have direct access to your car, which most of our events do allow that, you could bring something like a storage bin that's going to be waterproof with airtight seal, so your stuff stays dry during the event. So that's what I would say to answer that question. All right, let's go with the next one. If you could run a trail with any famous person, living or dead, who would it be? I was thinking about that this afternoon, and you know what? I'm going to answer it in a different way. I know I'm not answering it as a famous person, but to me, she's famous. I would say I would want to not run. I would want to hike with my Nana. That's how I would. That is definitely my answer. She is still living, but dementia is really taking a toll on her, and that's been, that's tough to see somebody you love go through that. So I think if I could choose anybody, it would be Nana, because I would love to get some more miles with her. So that's how I would answer that question. Okay, the last two questions that came in were specifically about the New York Long Path FKT. So if you're not familiar with that, that is, it's called the New York Long Path. It stretches from around the Albany, New York area, about 360 miles down to New York City. And in 2023, with the support of a lot of people, like 20 plus people that came out over the course of 9.5 days, I was able to do that as an FKT, being the first woman to set that. So there's since been a documentary that's been made. It's called The Long Path, The Journey of Becoming by filmmaker Shai Ben-Dor. You can check that out on the longpathfilm.com. And so we've done several screenings with Sassquad, so a lot of folks are familiar with it, which is why this question is coming in. So the question is, Kim, for your Long Path FKT, what lessons did you learn from tackling a continuous 350-mile trail? Oh, there's so many things. I mean, I could talk for hours about the weather. The weather was really challenging during the FKT. It was during a nor'easter, so there was over 8 inches of rain that happened over the 9.5 days. So foot care was a really big thing, and a lot of that came from the support of crew, who was just really staying on top of that for me when my brain went out the window. So things like addressing blisters early as soon as you start to feel them. The crew was insisting, like, you need to stop right now and we're going to address this blister so it doesn't turn into a bigger issue. So, I mean, all things considered, I had some blisters, but wasn't nearly as bad as it probably could have been if crew wasn't really vigilant with that. But I think, one of really the biggest lessons from the Long Path was seeing how a group of people can mobilize and support each other to achieve a really big goal. Like, that's something that I say a lot during the post race or the post film chats that we've been doing, like during screenings. Afterwards, we'll have time for Q&A. And this is something I say often, is that, like, yes, I physically ran, hiked, crawled all those miles, but it literally would have ended the first day without the support of all of the people that were physically there and also remotely there providing support. It's just fact. Like, it wouldn't have happened without all of the people who were involved in it. So I think that, like, a really valuable lesson that I've learned over the years and was able to implement during the Long Path was, like, how important the prep work is and leading up to it in terms of, like, the logistics and providing information and communication and all that, and just helping your crew, equipping them to help you out. So ultimately, I think probably, like, the biggest takeaway that I took from the Long Path is just seeing, like, how a group of people can achieve something that, like, on paper, like, should not have happened. Like, with all the issues that came up during those 9.5 days, like, it should not have happened. But it was all the people that worked together to not only support me, but to support each other, was really, really powerful. So that is my very long answer for that. All right. We've got one last question here. I think this is from the same person. One more about the New York Long Path FKT. Looking back, what is your favorite memory or highlight from the FKT? Oh my God. This is like that question of, like, what's your favorite race? I think one moment that always stands out to me is, and it was such a, like, we could say, quote unquote, small moment, a quiet moment, but it's something that I think it kind of, like, explains and articulates what I was just talking about the community supporting me and supporting each other. It was on the second day. It was pouring rain, like raining so hard. And we had rented an RV as the crew vehicle. And so basically, like I would do a section and then come back and we would kind of regroup with like food and gear and shoes and socks and all that. So this was around the Gilboa area. So it was the second day. It was less than 100 miles in. And we all crammed into that RV. There were probably like 11 or 12 people that were crammed into this small RV. It was like 15, I think it was 15 or 20 foot. I don't know. I don't remember how big it was. But we were all crammed in there. And I mean, number one, it was filthy. It was all my filth. Like all my stank was in the RV. But we crammed everybody in there. It was pouring rain outside. And I vividly remember sitting there on the chair in the RV and just taking in the moment. I was looking around and every single person in the RV was doing something, prepping something, taking care of this, making food, getting gear, getting socks, talking to each other, planning out the next section, prepping pacers for the terrain and the stats of the next section. And I remember just sitting there and being so like overwhelmed with gratitude is the best word I could use to describe that. Like just feeling so thankful for all the people who were giving up their time and taking days off of work and were there to do this crazy dumb thing. Somehow, they said yes to being involved with this. So I think that was like, if I could pick one, I mean, there's many, many, many others, but one that stands out to me is probably that moment on day 2 was just being able to sit there and like really soak in and appreciate and see like how much these amazing, beautiful people were just doing for each other and doing for me to support this goal that we all achieved together at the end of it. So that is the answer to that question. Okay, so that's all the questions that came in. Appreciate you all tuning in. That was actually really fun. I appreciate everybody who pre-submitted the questions ahead of time. There's some really good ones there. We should probably do this a couple times a year and make a point to collect some questions because this was great. So appreciate you all tuning in to our Ask Us Anything live stream webinar. As always, if you want to learn more about us, you can visit our website, which is sassquadtrailrunning.com, SASSQUAD, trailrunning.com. And we hope to see you at a trail party this year. We've got many, many events for 2026 that are already on the Squatch calendar on our website. You can check them out. We've added a calendar that you can subscribe to, which is fun, where it'll auto-populate anytime we add events, which is a great feature. So we hope to see you at an event this year. And until then, keep it squatchy.